Order. We have quorum. Good morning. My name is Deputy Mayor Paul Ainsley. I'm the chair of the General Government Committee. We have quorum, so I'm now going to call meeting number 22 to order. Welcome, everybody. Today's meeting is being held by video conference and in person at City Hall here in Committee Room number 1. This meeting is also being live streamed at youtube.com/Toronto City Council Live. For the land acknowledgement, I would like to say on behalf of myself, my colleagues, and our staff that although we may be meeting in different locations today, the General Government Committee would like to acknowledge the land we're meeting on is the traditional territories of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge Toronto is covered by Treaty Number 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. A reminder for deputants, which there are none, listed speakers. For members, the City Clerk has provided all agenda materials on toronto.ca/council and on the Clerk's meeting portal. Clerk's IT staff are available to members if you need help with your devices. I also want to remind everybody to please submit and approve your motions by email. Staff are available at ggc@toronto.ca to help with motions. At this point, I'll ask if there's any declarations of interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. Seeing none, can I have a motion to confirm the minutes from our last meeting on May 12th, 2025? Moved by Councillor Burnside. All in favor? That carries. We have 17 items on our agenda today. I'm just going to run through them and see if anybody has any holds. Once it opens. My laptop needs more coffee. Okay. GG 22.1 is the OMERS annual OMERS update for the City of Toronto, so I will hold that for a presentation. Number 2 is the annual, oh my goodness, my laptop really needs coffee. All right, number 2 is the annual update on OMERS related to the city's employer contributions. This is a report from the executive director. I don't know, did anybody want to move that? Councillor Holiday's moving it. All in favor? That carries. Number 3, GG 22.3, Toronto Fire Department Superannuation and Benefit Fund Funding Valuation Report as of December 31st, 2024. Any holds? Can I have a mover? Councillor Chang, all in favor? That carries. Number 4, GG 22.4, amendment to blanket contract 470-25041 and 470-25092 to Carson Electric Limited, operating as Anronn Electric Motor Repair for repair and maintenance of services on pumps and motors. Any holds? Can I have a mover? Moved by Councillor Thompson. All in favor? That carries. Number 5, GG 22.5, amendment to purchase order number 6050321 with CH2M Hill Canada Limited for professional engineering services for the Portland Sewage Pumping Station and Forcemain Gravity Sewer for engineering and construction services. Any holds? Can I have a mover, a seconder? Oh, sorry, and I have a technical motion to add into authority to the Chief Engineer and Executive Director, Engineering Construction Services. All in favor of the amendment? That carries. Item is amended. All in favor? That carries. GG 22.6, amendment to purchase order number 6051782 with Trimble Europe BV for mobile solutions for Toronto Water. Can I have a mover? Councillor Holiday, all in favor? That carries. GG 22.7, amendment to purchase order number 6053180 with Frank Pellegrino, General Contracting Limited for the State of Good Repair upgrades at the Ted Reeve Community Arena and Artificial Ice Rink Inflatable Dome for Parks and Recreation. Any holds? Can I have a mover? Councillor Thompson, all in favor? That carries. Number 8, amendment to purchase order number 6054336 to DTAH for landscape architect services for new parks at 10 Ordnance Street and 801 Wellington Street West for Parks and Recreation. I have a hold? No holds? Oh, technical amendment. Technical amendment is on the screen. Adding grant authority to the General Manager of Parks and Recreation. Item is amendment, amendment, all in favor, that carries. Item is amended, all in favor, that carries. Number 9, GG 22.9, award of document 504-860-7075 to Fer-Pal Construction Limited for Watermain CIPP lining at various locations. And there's a number of awards. Any holds? Can I have a mover? Councillor Cheng, all in favor, that carries. Number 10, GG 22.10, amendment to non-competitive blanket contract 47023385 with Atlas Polar Company Limited and blanket contract 47023-205 with Altec Industries for mechanical and structural safety inspections, repairs, training, and certifications for various Hiab, Effer, and Altec equipment. Sorry? Hiab? Thank you. Councillor Holiday is moving the item. All in favor? That carries. Sorry, there's a technical amendment. City Council grant authority to the General Fleet Manager, Fleet Services to be added in. Councillor Holiday is moving the amendment. Thank you. Item is amended. All in favor? That carries. Number 11, GG 22.11, non-competitive contract with DocuPet Incorporated for the provision of pet licensing services.
I'd like to hold this, please, Chair.
Okay, Councillor Chang is holding number 11. Number 12, strategic contract amendment for integrated telecommunications infrastructure. Any holds? Can I have a mover? Councillor Burnside, all in favor? That carries. Number 13, GG 22.13, transition of TO Live 2024 to 2033 capital budget and plan non-competitive contract with the Joel Theatrical for rigging system upgrades at the Meridian Arts Center. Any holds? Can I have a mover? Councillor Thompson, all in favor? That carries. GG 22.14, below market sublease lease agreements with various childcare service operators at 15 York Garden Way, 135 Kyle Lowry Road, and 8450 Sheppard Avenue East in wards 8, 16, and 25. And can I have a mover? Councillor Chang, all in favor? That carries. Number 15, GD 22.15, contract amendment to settle a legal dispute with Innotex Incorporated concerning the provision of firefighter structural bunker suits. Councillor Thompson, you want to hold that? Oh, moved by Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to move it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Thompson's moving number 15. All in favor? That carries. GG 22.16, administrative penalty system 2024 activity. Councillor Holiday is holding number 16. Number 17, annual report 2024 parking enforcement unit parking violation notice issuance. Councillor Holiday is holding number 17. And I believe that was our last item. All right, so we're going back to the top. So our first item is GG 22.1, an OMERS update for the City of Toronto. And we have an OMERS presentation by Juliana Carboni, Director of Sponsors Corporation, and John Armstrong, the Director of the Administrative Corporation. Good morning. Welcome back to City Hall. And you can start whenever you're ready.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of committee, and thank you for this opportunity to provide you all with an update on OMERS. For the benefit of some of the new councillors that might be in attendance, just a reminder of the city's appointees to OMERS. So I'm Juliana Carboni. I was the former Deputy City Manager for Community and Social Services here at the city, and I retired from the city in mid-2021 after 37 years of serving in municipal management, both in the former city of North York and the amalgamated city of Toronto. I was appointed by the city to serve on OMERS Sponsors Corporation Board of Directors effective January 1st of this year, and I also serve on all 3 of its committees. My appointment to OMERS follows the retirement of Joe Panichetti from that board, and most of you will remember Joe. And before I turn it over to John for introductions, I do want to extend our sincere thanks to Joe for his many years of service on the Sponsors Corporation Board and for his valued contributions to OMERS.
Thank you. Good morning, all. Maybe move closer. There we go. I've had the pleasure of meeting many of you in the past, but as a quick refresh, my name is John Armstrong. I was appointed to the OMERS Administration Corp Board in 22 after having been nominated by the city. I currently chair the Human Resources Committee, and I am a member of the Investment Committee.
So in terms of our agenda, we're going to provide an overview of the current OMERS governance structure, as well as a look at our membership. We'll also provide an update on our investments, followed by an update from the Sponsors Corporation. So OMERS is a bit different than other pension plans in Ontario in that we do have 2 distinct corporations. The Administration Corporation is responsible for plan administration, the investment of OMERS funds, and the preparation of plan valuations, while the Sponsors Corporation is responsible for what we refer to as the ABCs of OMERS: appointments, benefits, and contributions. And I'll talk in more detail a bit later in my remarks on this. So as a jointly sponsored pension plan, both boards are equally represented by employers and members. Each board has 7 directors that are appointed by employers or by organizations representing employers, and John and I are one of those directors. The 2 corporations, AC and SC, as we refer to them in short form, work closely together to ensure that OMERS delivers a sustainable, affordable, and meaningful plan to both its members today and to generations of members into the future. In terms of our members, OMERS continues to serve quite a large and diverse membership. There are over 640,000 members in the plan. Just over 280,000 of those are pensioners and deferred members, and close to 360,000 are active members who are employed by over 1,000 employers. Now, the portion of active members remains relatively stable, with 2/3 full-time members and 1/3 non-full-time members. And the OMERS plan consists of members who join the plan at a young age, while others join later on in their careers, some who accrue 30 or more years of service. Others will have shorter periods of service, both in full-time and non-full-time roles. So managing a plan the size of OMERS over the long term is a very complex task for a number of reasons. First, as you can appreciate, with such a diverse membership comes a very diverse range of needs, perspectives, and interests, all of which need to be balanced. It requires vast amount of information, analysis, and deliberation. Matters are often complex, they're interrelated, and they take time to work through effectively. Secondly, in considering these perspectives, we need to make sure that we balance design and cost, delivering a plan that offers meaningful benefits to our members at a reasonable cost for members today and into the future. The future, as we can all appreciate, is uncertain. Best practices for managing defined benefit plans like OMERS over the long term requires consideration of decades of future potential outcomes, future environments, assessing the risks and opportunities that lie ahead, all while balancing our objective related to the affordability, meaningfulness, and sustainability of the plan. Finally, like other pension plans, the OMERS plan continues to mature. We continue to pay out more in benefits than we collect in contributions. So we pay out $6.4 billion in pensions while we collect $5.6 billion. And the increasing maturity and its impact on the long-term sustainability of the plan remains an area of focus for OMERS, a priority area. The City of Toronto, of course, is a significant and important part of OMERS. It continues to be the largest of over 1,000 employers that participate in OMERS. There are approximately 30,000 members within the city proper itself, and just under 16,000 in Toronto's agencies and corporations, primarily police services, Toronto Hydro, and Toronto Community Housing Corporation. Those 46,000 Toronto active members represent just over 13% of OMERS' total membership. Now I'll pass it over to John to provide an update from the Administration Corporation.
Make sure I have my mic on this time. There we go. Good stuff. Thanks so much. So my job today is to take you through our 2024 results, but we're also well into the current year, and we will be reporting our half-year results for 2025 in August. But before I turn to 2024, I did want to note that 2025 has been a volatile year thus far, in large part due to policy announcements coming out of the United States. We saw a big drawdown in public markets in April, followed by a bounce back since then. And I would note that we've seen a very limited number of transactions in the private markets due to the high level of uncertainty. The US dollar is down thus far in 25, and that's been a headwind for us, but I would note that our hedging strategies have been a mitigant there. Layering in events in the Middle East and elsewhere, and there's certainly lots to be thinking about right now, but I can tell you that we remain confident both in our relative positioning and our go-forward strategy. Circling back to 2024, it was a successful year for OMERS. The primary plan posted a return of 8.3%, above the benchmark of 7.5%, which we set for ourselves at the beginning of the year, and producing approximately $11 billion of investment income. Now, as a pension plan, we measure time in quarter centuries, not in calendar quarters, so the long-term perspective is also very important to us. On that front, our 10-year return sits at 7.1% relative to our benchmark for that period of 7.3%. I would note we've discussed in the past or had questions from the committee about the 20-year return. I would note that that too coincidentally sits at 7.1% currently. Importantly, the returns that we've been able to generate over the last 10 years have compounded $70 billion of investment income into the plan. And that has made a tremendous difference in our funded ratio, which now sits at 98%. Let's look at that over time on this next slide. You've seen this slide from me before, so I'll make a couple of quick points here too. At 98%, the funded ratio is up 1% year over year and 12% relative to its low of 86% in 2012. The improvement in the funded status has also enabled us to further reduce the discount rate used to value our liabilities by 5 basis points to 3.7% on a real basis, which makes the plan more sustainable going forward. If we could turn to the next page, I'll unpack our 24 returns in a little bit more detail. Now, there's a lot of numbers on this page, but I will use the colored arrows and boxes to walk you through it. Our 2024 performance was not only better than our benchmark, it was also better than 2023. Presented here on this slide are the results for our 7 strategic asset classes. 5 of these asset classes, the ones with the little green arrows on the page, performed better in 2024 than they did in 2023. One of them performed about the same, that's our public credit, and only one, government bonds, performed lower than in the prior year. And that's because interest rates have been rising in the longer term. But as we look ahead, that's actually a good thing for us because we are savers, and higher interest rates in the long term are better for savers. Now, before I turn or move forward, I want to highlight for you three significant drivers of the return for the 24 year. We had a very positive performance from our exposure to the US dollar, which impacted the asset classes highlighted in the orange box on the slide and added 4% to our overall return. Shifting to the blue box, we had back-to-back years of double-digit returns from public equities and from private credit. You've heard me talk in past meetings about how we were tilting the portfolio towards fixed income to take advantage of higher interest rates. Well, that's been particularly rewarding for us in our private credit business where we lend money to other businesses. Turning to real estate, in the red box, we had strong operating performance in terms of leasing, occupancy, and rents and the like, and strong operating income from real estate. But higher interest rates have hurt valuations in this sector, and that's something that we are keeping a close eye on. I will tell you that we continue to believe that the quality of this portfolio will stand the test of time, notwithstanding the market that we find ourselves in today. Shifting gears a little bit, so far my comments have been focused on our absolute return in 24. And with the next series of slides, what I want to do is provide you with a little bit of relative context. The chart that you see here on this slide was originally published by an organization called Global Sovereign Wealth Fund 2 years ago. It's based on 22 results. OMERS performance was industry leading relative to the 36 funds they surveyed that year. And importantly, as you can see, only 3 of those funds, including OMERS, were able to generate positive returns in that year. If we flip ahead, at the time, we were also interested in understanding how we had performed on a relative basis since emerging from the pandemic. So we added this 2-year view. Our team was able to capture the results for 30 of the 36 funds that were originally surveyed. And you can see that OMERS was again industry leading in that 2-year period post-COVID. And it was the leading Canadian pension plan, those highlighted with the red maple leaf. Flipping ahead to the next one, we've added in a 3-year view with the 23 results, and OMERS continues to be industry leading. Flipping once again, if we add the 2024 results to get to a 4-year view, OMERS has averaged 8.1%, and we remain solidly situated in the top quartile, which is a testament to the effectiveness of the strategies that the investment teams have been deploying across, I would note, a varied set of market environments that we've seen over that period. As a result of this performance, the plan's asset base continues to grow steadily, and that growth is important for a number of reasons. When we grow, we gain economies of scale, which helps us to manage our costs. When we grow, we have better access to a broader selection of investment opportunities, which helps us to diversify the portfolio more fully and lowers our risk profile. And finally, when we're growing, we can attract talent, and our members deserve the very best talent that we can find to manage our assets on their behalf. Our balance sheet continues to be exceptionally well rated. 3 global rating agencies rate OMERS at AAA, which is the highest credit rating available, and 1 rates OMERS at the 2nd highest level. To put that in context for you, Canada is currently hosting the G7 summit, as you all know. Well, our credit rating is better than 5 of the G7 countries. It's stronger than the United States, it's stronger than Japan, it's stronger than the United Kingdom, and it's stronger than France and Italy. This strong balance sheet positions us to have good access to capital, to provide liquidity, to leverage our investments, and to improve our returns. The slide you see in front of you is one of the reasons that our balance sheet is so strongly rated, and that's because of our diversification. This slide shows diversification through two lenses, both in terms of our asset classes and in terms of geography. In the interest of time, I'm going to focus on the asset class chart on the left. Importantly to note that each of these asset classes serves a specific purpose within the portfolio. Some of them, in fact, serve multiple purposes. The private credit and public credit, for example, are there to generate cash flow because cash is important to pay pensions. Some of the assets are there to seek out long-term capital appreciation, like public equities and private equities. Some of them are great long-term hedges against inflation, like our infrastructure and real estate assets, which is important because our pension liabilities are linked to inflation. And some of the assets, like government bonds, provide tremendous liquidity, particularly in times of stress. So it is a portfolio construction with intent, or constructed with intent, and I will leave it there for the moment, but I'd certainly be happy to answer your questions once Juliana has finished with her presentation.
Thank you, John. So as I mentioned earlier, the SC is responsible for the ABCs of OMERS, namely appointments, benefits, and contributions. And in order to fulfill our mandate, the work we do focuses on 4 key areas. We conduct periodic reviews of our governing policies to ensure they remain relevant and support good governance over time. Last year, we updated 4 key policies related to long-term funding sustainability, contribution equity across our membership, and we adjusted appointment terms to strengthen our governance. We work with sponsors to complete appointments to both the AC and the SC boards, and it's important to ensure that we have directors with the appropriate skill sets serving on both boards, including enhancement of diversity and inclusion on our boards. So this year, we're actually working with 16 of our 17 sponsors, everyone but the City of Toronto, on a number of appointments and reappointments for each of the boards. We also periodically assess the continued appropriateness and fairness of contributions and benefits across our large and diverse membership, including both current and future generations. Last year, we announced an adjustment to contribution rates to take effect January 1, 2027, and that's part of our regular review of contribution rates, and I'll provide an update on that in just a few minutes. Finally, we continually monitor the long-term health of the plan as it matures to ensure that its strength and resiliency for generations to come. If we achieve our expected investment returns, we will successfully build the reserves that the plan needs as it continues to mature, so that we are able to withstand any future adverse experiences with strength and stability for our members and our employers. As I've mentioned, and most importantly, our mission is to ensure that we deliver a meaningful, affordable, and sustainable OMERS for our members. And an important input in fulfilling our mandate is understanding the often diverse perspectives of the sponsor and stakeholder organization that represent our members and employers. Ongoing engagement and communication with sponsors and stakeholders to understand these perspectives is a critical element for the success of OMERS. The Sponsors Corporation Board recently announced that it'll begin holding semi-annual sponsor and stakeholder meetings as a way to enhance its engagement activities with our sponsor and stakeholder community. And the first meeting will take place in the fall of this year. These meetings will supplement existing communication and engagement activities that we already have in place. They are meant to provide a valuable opportunity for our sponsors and stakeholders to exchange information, to receive updates from the Sponsors Corporation, and to hear the views of other organizations. I can assure you that the SC Board remains committed to seeking out opportunities to enhance engagement activities with its sponsors and stakeholders in order to ensure that their views are gathered and considered in the decision-making process. As a member of the SC Board, I have regular meetings with city staff to discuss a variety of topics and to ensure that their perspectives are brought forward to the SC Board for consideration as we make decisions. Finally, I want to provide an update regarding the impact of the reallocated contribution rates set to come into effect January 1, 2027. As a reminder, in 2024, the Sponsors Corporation concluded its most recent actuarial review of contribution rates. These reviews are done on a regular basis with regular frequency to ensure that the allocation of contributions paid by our membership and their employers is fair and reasonable. The 2024 review concluded that a reallocation of the plan's funding across the 4 contribution rates was required. Now, this is the first change to contribution rates since 2015. And this reallocation does not change the plan's total funding requirements. The total contributions that OMERS collects from members and employers will remain unchanged. These changes will, however, result in some members and employers paying more, while others will pay less. So last year, we provided the committee with an estimated impact based on the data at that time on what this reallocation of contributions means for the City of Toronto. Based on updated membership data, the anticipated impact for the City of Toronto contributions remains unchanged at 1.3% starting in 2027. From a member's perspective, the reallocated contributions means that for contributions for members participating in NRA 65, so normal retirement age 65 provisions of the plan, and earning less than approximately $97,000 will pay less. All other members, including police and fire and the NRA 60 provisions, as well as higher paid members in the NRA 65 provision, will pay more. Overall, however, approximately 70% of all OMERS members contributing to the plan will see a decrease in contributions. For individual members, the size of the increase or decrease in take-home pay will depend on how much they earn and which normal retirement age provision they participate in. Now, the next periodic review of the contribution rate allocations is scheduled for 2029. Mr. Chair, thank you for this opportunity. That concludes our presentation, and John and I would be happy to answer any questions that committee may have.
Okay, thank you very much. Questions of the deputies? Councillor Burnside?
Yeah, thanks. So when you say higher paid members will be paying more, so that's over the 97,000 income threshold, is that right?
So if they're, yes.
Hey, can you put that slide back up? Do you mind?
Yes, in terms of who pays more, it would be the police and fire and the NRA.
I'm getting to police and fire, but I just wanted to know about, I think you said NRA 65.
One in NRA 65.
Over 97,000.
Over the 90, the higher paid members.
So what is, when you say paid more, that's kind of, they're going to be paying more, right?
As part of their contributions towards
Yeah. So what does that mean in terms of paid more?
The average?
Yeah. Well, like paid more could be $1 more, it could be $100 more.
So it's roughly in the range of $5, $1.
Sorry?
It's not like a huge amount. It's around roughly
okay.
$5 is my recollection.
Okay, that's all. So Toronto Fire, they have, do you call it NRA 60?
60. Police and fire have NRA 60.
Pardon me, so they can retire earlier, obviously, that's the whole idea, right? Okay. So they pay more with each pay, and the employer, being the city, pays more with each pay, correct? Yeah. What percentage of firefighters take advantage of that? Because I've spoke to them, and they seem to have a bit of an issue with the fact that very few of the firefighters actually take advantage of that, and the city's ends up paying more than we should be paying because they actually work out more they don't retire till they would actually be eligible for the NRA 65. I think that's what they told me.
I do remember, I just don't want to misquote.
And we can get the information later because it just popped into my head, that's fine.
But we did have. So how many actually take advantage of the 60 or continue to work beyond the 60?
Yeah, what percentage take advantage of the 60? Because my understanding, and to say, I don't really know what I'm talking about, I admit that, is that there's a greater burden on the employee, but I'm more concerned about the employer for the NRA 60. But if they're not taking advantage of it, they continue working, then it's actually ends up being punitive towards the employer and the employee for that matter, because they're not taking advantage of the higher contributions and leaving early.
Is it okay to respond? Is the mic on?
You just have to push the button.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, I can hear you. Yeah.
Can everybody online hear me okay?
Oh, don't worry about them.
Oh, okay, okay. Okay, thank you. Sorry, just.
We can all hear you.
I'm Lowry Hutchinson, and I'm from the Sponsors Corporation. And so in terms of your question, there's a couple of things. One is I think your first question was the proportion of the firefighters who are in the NRA 60 provision versus the NRA 65.
Oh, okay.
Do you care about that?
No.
Okay. The proportion of people who retire and receive a benefit from the NRA 60 is dependent upon the characteristics of each individual firefighter. So for members who leave before retirement, they will receive a better benefit under the NRA 60 program. For those who are deceased, their survivor benefit will receive a better plan. And then for those who retire, it's very similar to the circumstances under the NRA 65 provision, which is everyone pays, it's a pooling concept in the pension plans where all members pay the same contributions for the array of early retirement provisions in the plan. And then at the end of the day, depending on when you retire and how much service you have, you either reap benefits from that early retirement provision, or you get fewer benefits, or you get no benefits because you retire at an age later on. And so both plans have members in all streams, and that's looked at and analyzed regularly by the SC board. As part of its overall monitoring, I think there was one of the focus areas that says you look at the appropriateness and continued reasonableness of benefits. That's an ongoing monitoring, but we do have a request before us to look at the NRA 60 provisions, and that's what's under discussion at our boardroom. Inside the boardroom, so
it's on your radar.
So it's on our radar. We
get us
do
started
know.
with that, and
I'm sorry. So it is on our radar. We do trending analysis, which is why it's on our radar for both provisions of the plan.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
So then this is more about an investment sort of thing, and I don't really understand the bond market at all. But do you guys, when you're there's been a lot, I know the bond market was kind of turned upside down for a while. I don't know if it still is. But there's a lot of talk about I assume you invest quite heavily in U.S. Treasuries, or not?
We do. In our government bonds, we would hold U.S. Treasuries among other government.
Okay, and so this is just kind of more of for my own edification, I guess, and just because I have the opportunity to talk to someone that actually knows what they're talking about.
Let's hope.
Well, yeah, let's really hope. But there's a lot of talk about the U.S. debt. The 6% of their deficit, 6% of GDP, and all that. Does that impact your? Do you have any concerns, and does that impact your ongoing investment in U.S. Treasuries?
So,
does that talk about valuation and all that?
You're raising a very important point in the markets right now, and the escalation of fiscal debt, which frankly is not only applicable in the U.S., it's quite acute in the U.S., but it's a global phenomenon. On the positive side, it is driving up, it is part of what is driving up the interest rates that you receive for holding Treasury securities, which, as I noted in my comments, Treasury securities are it's good security, so you can use it as a source of liquidity if you need to in times of stress. But it does beg the question, what does the U.S. economy look like, not today or next year or the year after, but 5 and 10
That's what I'm thinking of, 20, 30,
beyond.
or 40 or whatever.
I mean, we don't make our investments in 4-year cycles. We make our investments for the long term, and we constantly have our eye on the ball of what the long term looks like. And one of the things that we're thinking about right now is the U.S. has been a very exceptional market for many, many years. Can that continue? Or is there risk around that? And one of the greatest sources of mitigating that risk, if you will, is the diversification of the portfolio. So not just being in treasuries, being in Canadian, being in other government securities, being in municipal securities and like corporate bonds.
Okay.
There's the range or myriad of opportunities within fixed income, if I can characterize treasuries as a fixed income, is quite broad, and we play the span
of those,
Those aren't
including in
arrears.
private credit.
Okay, thank you, and thanks for your indulgence.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Burnside. Other questions of the deputants? Seeing none. I had a couple.
Sorry, I have a couple questions.
Councillor Ainsley, I
Councillor
had
Cheng?
questions as well. My
Okay,
hand was
sorry.
up.
There must be a time lag.
problem.
I didn't see anybody sticking their hands up. Councillor Cheng and then Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just wondering what percentage of OMERS membership is comprised of City of Toronto current and former staff?
You mean both active and retirees?
That's right.
Both active. We have active and. I had mentioned how much is of City of Toronto is active members, and it's, you know, quite over, just over 13%, but that's total active members. I'd have to get you the number, including retirees, sorry.
Okay, that's okay. And I'm wondering about, in terms of policies for investment, are there ethical or climate policies surrounding how funds are invested?
Absolutely, on both fronts. So in 2023, we published our first climate action plan, in particular, which acknowledges that climate change is one of the most pressing issues of our time. It articulates how we are going to manage the risks and opportunities associated with climate change. We did have a deeper presentation to, and I apologize, I may get the name of the committee, Infrastructure and Environment Committee, IEC, I think if I referred to it correctly, where we went through not only what we were doing, our actions, but also our progress against that. I'm very pleased to say that as of the end of 2024, we had reduced the portfolio's weighted average emissions by 58% relative to 2019 against a target of 30. I would note that that changes because it's a revenue metric, so the path isn't going to be exactly linear, but it is a significant improvement that we are focused on. And from an ethics perspective, we are constantly monitoring ethical issues, world events, and the like through our legal teams, our risk team, and our compliance team to ensure that our portfolio is properly considering those issues.
Great, thank you. That's great to hear. And as you may know, AI is changing the world very quickly, and especially in the area of employment. And I'm wondering, how does AI impact our investments? Are we investing in new technology that is developing AI? And is it also being incorporated into OMERS processes and analysis?
So I would say the answer to both of those is yes. I would note that the range, I mean, AI is so pervasive, as we know, and its impacts are so pervasive that the degree to which it's impacting each of our investee opportunities is a broad spectrum. But we are doing, I mean, I know there was an AI symposium conducted, I think it was about 18 months ago in our private equity group where we brought all our investee companies together and talked about AI and the like. So we're very active in thinking about it. We have a ventures program where we invest in earlier stage companies as well, where that's a prominent theme. In terms of how it impacts our processes, I would say that we are taking a cautious but thoughtful approach to AI. We have a very robust policy around the use of AI. There are, in particular, as you think about confidentiality and personal information and the like, concerns around AI that need to be managed. I don't believe that we are at a point yet where we would want to be relying on AI per se to make investment decisions. We like to have some human intervention, if you will. But it is becoming, we are making tools available, and we're doing it in a careful way to make sure that we protect our information, et cetera. But we are making tools available to our teams because we know that if you don't make tools available that are safe, employees will tend to find other sources to employ AI. So we're trying to bring those to the fore to enable people to be more productive and to have access to those things, but doing it in a cautious and careful manner.
Thank you. And last question. The City of Toronto would like to grow our AI industry. And I'm wondering what opportunities are presented through the Ventures program to strengthen AI development in the City of Toronto.
So I think we are very fortunate with a deep history of AI development and progress in this city. So I think we are well positioned on the global stage to take advantage of that. It is absolutely a theme that our ventures team is focused on because it's so pervasive and the opportunity is so vast. And so as with other opportunities, I think about affordable housing, for example, infrastructure and the like, maintaining that dialogue with the city is going to be critically important as we both look at the opportunity set that's in front of us.
Great, thank you. Those are my questions.
Thank you, Councillor Cheng. Councillor Thompson, questions of the deputants?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning. And it's always a pleasure to hear Juliana Carboni's voice, and great to hear you and see you on the visual. So my first question, I guess, is the presentation speaks to volatility as well as world events. And I gather based on your presentation that what you're saying is that OMERS is very active in terms of looking and monitoring and measuring all those issues and are ready to change, I guess, the pace of investment. Would that be correct for my takeaway from this?
Sorry, could you just repeat that last? Did you say the pace of investment?
Yeah, the pace and the sort of change in terms of your exposures and so on.
Yeah, one of the things we've been doing right now in a volatile market is ensuring that we have ample liquidity, in particular to take advantage of opportunities, and maybe that's where, in terms of pace and where we see opportunities, right? We're in the business of trying to identify dislocated valuation that we think in the long term will be beneficial on a risk-return basis for our members. And so having that liquidity is critically important to do exactly what you're referring to.
Right. Did I hear it correctly? The payout is $6.4 billion and the collected amount is 5.6. Did I hear that number correctly?
That's correct.
So there's a delta of about $800 million differential there?
That's correct.
And that is going to be made up how? Because that can't run indefinitely with respect to that sort of imbalance. So how are you proposing to make up that delta?
It's a very astute point, and it's a critical one in terms of our investment strategy. The delta has to be made up from investment income. And that is it's a known issue, if you will. It's one that we can project with, the one thing we know is every model's wrong, but some are useful. But we can predict it with a degree of precision. And so we know that issue. We've incorporated it into our strategy. And so, for example, when I refer to the importance of having assets that generate cash flow, it's exactly to address this issue.
Right. So you talk about contribution increase. Is there a reflective aspect of payout decrease to members in the future in order to reflect on this imbalance that exists? Will we see members getting less than perhaps they had expected because your policies have changed because either the investment returns are not as high and the volatility with respect to world markets and domestic market is such that affects the payout aspect?
So I just want to clarify that the contribution rate reallocation doesn't generate, we don't collect any more from employers or members. That remains unchanged. Some will pay more, some will pay less, as I said, depending on which NRA provision they're in, or in whether or not they earn above or below that $97,000. But right now, our total contributions are not changing. We continually
So-
look at our benefits and our contributions to make sure they're at appropriate levels.
So you create an equilibrium then with respect to the increase and decrease to reflect that non-change of actually benefit? Okay, got you. Could I then ask about emerging markets? I see in the chart that was referred to the asset by geography, and it talks about the US 53% and so on, Europe 17%. The Asia piece, which is 11%, does that reflect, it says Asia and the rest of the world, what percentage of that is the Middle East, for example?
Our exposure within the Middle East would be relatively immaterial. That exposure would largely be through multinational companies. So for example, if we invest in public equities that do business in many countries around the world.
I'm very happy to hear that, by the way, because that's what I was hoping for. Then can you tell me that what is the exposure in areas, emerging markets like in Africa? What are we doing there? For the continent of Africa, of course.
I hesitate to say zero, but it would be close to zero. And I hesitate only because, again, multinational organizations that we may invest in, for example, you know, I don't want to pick a specific name, but a large global enterprise will have activities in.
And Mr. Chair, just one final question, and I'll just two parts to it. How did COVID affect the investment decisions? And can you tell me, please, the senior officers in OMERS, are they paid in Canadian funds or US funds?
So maybe I'll tackle the second question first, if I may.
Thank you.
We have employees, senior officers in many jurisdictions around the world, the UK, the US, Canada most prominently. We also have a large office, well, it's a smaller office relative to those in Singapore, for example. So our executives that reside are paid in the currencies within the jurisdiction where they reside. So if we have a senior executive situated in the US, they're going to be paid in US dollars. If they're situated in Canada, they're paid in Canadian dollars.
No equivalency.
Pardon me?
No equivalency.
So our pay is performance-based and it's market-based. So it's a function of the market they reside in, if you will, and the competitive dynamics that exist, with an eye to what are you paying somebody who does a similar job in different jurisdictions, but it's really market and performance driven. To your question around, I think it was how did COVID impact our investment strategies? COVID was COVID, the great financial crisis, all of these events are learning opportunities, and you should never, miss an opportunity to take advantage of a crisis to learn, to use it as an opportunity to reflect and see what could you do differently as you go forward. I would say that I believe since COVID, we have become much more sophisticated as an organization in terms of how we think about our liquidity, our sources of liquidity, as well as a lens of our complete balance sheet, and how the asset classes interact with one another. So I hesitate to say that it's specifically COVID related per se, but a natural evolution for the organization to continually learn and to continually improve. And COVID is but one of the major events that we experienced that was an opportunity to learn.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Other questions of the deputants? Sorry. Seeing none, I had a couple. I wanted to ask, I guess first, Mr. Armstrong, I wanted to ask about what the federal government's been proposing to OMERS in terms of investing in Canadian infrastructure.
What I would say, Mr. Chair, is as you would appreciate, we're at a unique point in our history where, if I could say, necessity is the mother of all invention and innovation. And we are seeing a lot of very innovative thinking and creativity around creating the environment for further investment within Canada.
I would note, however, that our portfolio today is already invested 20% in the Canadian market relative to a global GDP of 3%. So we are a very strong supporter of the Canadian economy, and we will always be. It's core to our portfolio because we know this market and we have to pay pensions in Canadian dollars. But I would say that we're seeing very innovative and creative opportunities that we haven't seen in the past number of years, or in a way that we haven't seen them.
Okay, and how do you do like a risk assessment of that?
So
I only ask because, you know, OMERS took a big hit with Tim's Water
yep.
in the investment there, and I believe like the one report I read, it said OMERS infrastructure return took a 56% hit in 2023.
So I don't know that stat specifically, so I won't speak to it. But Mr. Chair, we are fiduciaries at the end of the day. And so the opportunities that we look at, both from a return and a risk perspective, have to compete for relative to the global opportunity set that we have, putting a lens on them that we need to be doing the things that we believe are in the best interest of our members, best financial interest of our members. And that's not just a return, it's a risk, to your point, assessment of those opportunities. Thames is not a situation we're proud of, to say the least, not happy about. But we do have a portfolio that is, within infrastructure alone, 30 different investments. We own 25 different private equity companies. We own hundreds, if not thousands, of public equities, 850 odd real estate assets. And so within that portfolio, from time to time, there may be situations such as that that didn't go the way that we expected them to go. But on the whole, we're very comfortable with the portfolio and where it sits.
Okay, and what did Tim's Water pulling out of that cost the pension fund?
What did it cost, did you say? I don't have the number off the top of my head, but it was written off in its entirety.
Okay, but you don't know that number offhand?
I don't have it off the top of my head.
You send it to me?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And then I wanted to ask about, so the average return by my math over the last 10 years is 7.1%?
Over the last 10 years, correct.
Yeah. So if you factor in inflation, fees, management costs, where does that put OMERS? Are we still making money, or do we break even over the last 10 years?
We did better than break even, and the chart that illustrates that is that chart that improves our funding ratio, where we have improved the funding ratio from the low, now that's not 10 years, slightly more than 10 years, but the low of 86 to now 98. That has all come from positive investment returns in excess of paying pensions, so that gap that we were talking about in contributions relative to benefits, as well as the expenses.
I'm sorry, which chart's that?
Sorry, if you turn to slide
8.
Thank you. Slide number 8. So in 2012, I'll just give the narrative of the chart while we're getting it up. In 2012, the funded status of the plan was 86%. So this is the ratio of assets to liabilities. And over the time period since then, we've improved that ratio of assets to liabilities to 98%. And importantly, at the same time, we have been reducing the discount rate that we use to value those liabilities, which in effect makes the liabilities worth more. And we've still managed to improve the funded status by 12% over that period. That all comes from investment returns and incomes.
Okay.
So positive as opposed to break even.
Okay. And then, sorry, can you just, you talked a bit about the federal government of infrastructure, what's happening in Ontario? I know that you're OMERS is the largest shareholder in like Bruce Power.
Yes.
For example. What's the outlook or plan for Ontario?
So Ontario features very prominently within the portfolio. We
hold today 15 to 20% of the best office space in the city. We are owners in the Intercontinental Hotel down on Front Street, the Park Hyatt up on Bloor. We are an owner, we have a minority stake in MLSE, which are, sports franchises that people know well. Yorkdale Mall, Scarborough Town Center, Square One, where in each of those areas we have very ambitious plans vis-a-vis housing, which I think is very important for the city. And so Ontario as a whole, we did a research study in 2023, maybe it was 2022. We commissioned a study that articulated that we drive between the spend we do as well as that of our pensioners, 14 billion of economic benefit to the province of Ontario. And it will continue to be a very significant part of the portfolio going forward. I should mention too, we're an owner of Terranet, which is the land registry system in Ontario. So very significant positions in significant assets and infrastructure within this province, and I don't see that changing.
Okay, and then, sorry, just my last question. I just wanted to ask about the governance review that's being done. The board of directors is supportive of it?
Indeed, and I will invite George Cook, who is our chair of our board and managing that on our behalf, to come to the fore and speak to that.
Okay. Morning, Mr. Cook. Welcome to City Hall.
Thank you. It's nice to be back. So yes, our board, the AC board, is very supportive of the review. We actually have welcomed the review. These things are, I think, very much in the public interest to do periodically, and we and certainly our colleagues at Sponsors Corp, they're hearing to speak to it themselves, but I think both boards have been involved in interaction with the review team and are quite supportive of having this exercise take place.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. Councillor Holyday? No, it's okay.
You've inspired me, Mr. Chair. Thank you. I just want to talk about membership and trends. So slide 5 says there's 640,000 members, about a third are pensioners, a little less than 2/3 are active members, and 12% are deferred. And then it says 11,500 new pensions added in 2024. What's the attrition rate out? So is the membership generally growing, shrinking, or remaining stable?
It's been growing. Total membership has been growing.
And is that a function of people choosing the public sector, or is that on par with other pensions?
I think it's more a function of the addition of part-time workers into the plan.
Okay, so yeah, this is where I wanted to go with it. So part-time workers came into the plan. Do we know anything about the long-term prognosis of a part-time member buying into the plan? Are there trends showing where they will exercise an extraction if they leave the employer that's an OMERS employer? Do they leave their money in and it turns out to be a very, very small pension sometime into the future? What can you tell us about the long-term prognosis? And is it more efficient for you to administer kind of a career public servant under the pension, where it's a large volume, large amount of dollars, single case file versus many, many small part-time case files? Does that matter? Is it material?
Can I try this? My colleague here may very well have something to add to this, but from my perspective, my understanding, first of all, it's very early to know exactly what that experience of coming and going is going to be. Similarly, the makeup of the part-time workforce, I think is arguably could be quite skewed. An example that would make that point, a janitor in a school system, for example, is constantly a part-time worker, but they stay that way in that employment for many, many years, as opposed to somebody who's working as a lifeguard at a city pool for a couple of summers who would have the opportunity to join the plan. The exact mix is first of all, it's new, and secondly, it's changing somewhat. So it's very hard to respond with an answer today that would be highly predictive of what you're going to see tomorrow or the day after. And the last comment I would make to that would be from an administrative point of view, I don't see any reason why the part-time worker is producing any more of a cost burden than anyone else. People come and go in the plan. Full-time employees leave the public sector, go back to the public sector. There's nothing that I've seen, at least at the AC board, that says there's anything that's materially different between the cost associated with the part-time worker or the full-time worker. Is that fair enough to you?
Yeah. If I may, just to add to that, you're asking the same questions that our board asks, and part of the growth in non-full-time members is a result of a plan change decision that became effective at the beginning of 2023. So we only have 2 years of experience under this new form of eligibility, and it was agreed at the time that we would wait until we had a couple of years of experience, not only of enrollments, but as you said, at the other end, decisions about how long do I stay, do I exit, do I take a different career path? And so that is a planned activity to commence in 2026, probably become finalized in 2027, and it's part of our strategy refresh, which both boards approved, a new 5-year strategy at the end of last year, carrying into 2030, which includes discussion of plan design modernization to ensure that the offering of the plan remains relevant in the years ahead.
What's more important to the credit rating agencies or analysts that follow the company, trying to assess its value, its worth, its stability, its creditworthiness? Is it dollar for dollar, or is it about the number of members in the plan? Like, does the membership numbers affect versus the money locked up?
So one of the biggest drivers of credit rating is scale, happens to be scale. In the investing world, scale is a big advantage as well, and it sort of gets at the point you're raising. Adding dollars, adding assets is of benefit to all members because of the pooling effects for some of the reasons that I talked about in terms of growth of asset base. It also impacts the credit rating specifically. I would say the biggest drivers are scale of OMERS and the diversification of its asset base and asset mix.
So back to my question, two questions ago, just about the part-time, full-time members. That's right, part-time members were added in as eligible fairly recently. So those numbers mushroomed, but it doesn't necessarily mean that dollars mushroomed into the plan, because it's a new class of employee, but they're putting, I'm gonna guess they're probably putting in smaller amounts.
It's fair.
What does the baseline on the rest of the membership show us with the traditional style, long-time career member? Is that a stable, declining, or increasing baseline?
Slight increase.
Okay, a slight increase. Okay, so at least the trend is positive. And is there a way to help us in the future assess that? Because my concern is that the introduction of part-time masks the baseline, right, and the big dollars that are in there. Is there a way to look at that in the future instead of just a simple stat on?
There absolutely is, and it's something we do on a regular basis through actuarial estimation. Back to my comment on models, it's useful, but we know they're not precise.
Councillor,
but it's constantly being evaluated, and that's part of how, getting back to one of the earlier questions on the gap between payout versus contributions. That's how we analyze that, is by growth in membership on full-time, part-time, as well as retired and inactive.
Just to add one comment at my peril, I guess, but trying to respond to your question. In terms of the population of part-time workers, there's a group of them that are, if you will, permanent part-time. They're going to be there forever. They're arguably no different from my perspective at least, no different than somebody that is full-time. It's just that they work, say, 11 months a year instead of 12. And then there's a part of that part-time population where the individuals will turn over, but those part-time jobs will maintain themselves. And in fact, depending on what people's views are of where the workplace may be going, you know, in the context of AI or whatever other factors are driving it, that number of part-time spots may go up, may go down. But those additions, I have to imagine when this analysis is done, will show a net positive to the plan.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Holliday. I believe that's questions by everybody. Thank you very much this morning. Appreciate you coming in. Does anybody have any questions of staff on the presentation? Seeing none. I just have one, and I guess it ties into the city report that we already passed. I just wanted to ask about, so the OMERS website says Toronto Police have 8,400 active contributors in 2024, 5,400 of them roughly are NRA 60, but the police aren't mentioned in the slide deck of the report. Is it possible to get police added in the future reports?
Absolutely. We will add them in future reports.
Okay, all right, thank you. Thank you. Those are all my questions to staff. Motion to receive the item. Councillor Holliday, all in favor? That carries. And then we're on to sorry, Matthew. Number 9. Thank you, Matthew. Number 11. GG 22.11, non-competitive contract with DocuPet Incorporated for the provision of pet licensing. Councillor Chang, you held the item?
Yes, I have a few questions. Yep. Thank you. First of all, is there currently any enforcement being done on pet licensing?
Through the speaker, yes.
And what does that look like? How often are there fines applied? How many fines are applied in a year when pets are not licensed?
So it's done throughout the year. We do it in a variety of areas where our staff are, either in parks or open spaces. There is not a lot of activity with respect to fines. I don't have the exact number, but it's something I could get. But it's very challenging. We start with, what we do is we educate and we say, your pet are you aware that pets are required to be licensed? You should license your pet. This is how you can do it. You can do it via phone at one of our 3 shelters, or you can do it through what we're recommending here today in DocuPet. So this is about a contract to do pet licensing.
Mm-hmm. But if we're not really enforcing it, it's harder for people to feel like they're incentivized to take action. So that is one area. And is there currently any integration? Because one of the selling points of registering that we try to say is it helps us match pets with their owners if they get lost. But a lot of owners are also taking the step of microchipping. So in the absence of an other benefit, people might not be as motivated if they're already microchipping their animals. So just wondering, have we explored any integration with microchipping companies to say, oh, is there a way that we could partner? It could include a financial incentive for the microchipping companies to incorporate our licensing into their process?
Thank you, Councillor. To the chair, we do have done that in the past. We do try to incentivize licensing through the Blue Paw program, and we also have microchip clinics where we will microchip animals to try to have more ways to reunite pets with their people. A lot of people don't update their address or phone number, so sometimes that method doesn't work either, so nothing is foolproof. Having more works better, but that is something that we could do to try again to incentivize microchip companies to work with us.
And is there texting notification currently incorporated in renewal, since renewal is, I guess, a key part of this process to make sure that it happens every year?
Thank you for the question. The current process for renewal is done through email and by phone and by mail. We can explore with the company if they could do texting. I'm not sure if they have that capability. I am aware of the capability. I do get it from Shoppers Drug Mart, for example, when a prescription is to be renewed. So it is a quick way to see it. So we will explore that.
Great. And with regard to supporting low-income residents, have we done any free licensing blitzes at our TCHC or supportive housing sites?
Yes, we do. We do that regularly, and we do try to get people into compliance and offer waived fees for the licenses.
So in this report, there's a suggestion that we're going down in headcount from 3 to half a staff member. And how will this half staff member be able to support outreaches, education campaigns, or is there another team, or does this become DocuPet's responsibility?
We will work with DocuPet. They do marketing as well, but we will do our own. And we have another team that works on these events and out in the community. And we're building that team so that we will be doing more of these events and blitzes and that kind of thing right in the community.
And do we have an idea of what the head count is? What the number of pets in the city are, the population?
We don't have an exact number, but the estimate is about 600,000.
And so we're at around a 10% compliance, which is quite low. Any reasons that you think this is happening? Why do you think people are not, in general, licensing their pets?
I think that it's a problem in all jurisdictions, all municipalities. Pet licensing is a difficult thing, and you really have to work at it and have marketing and have good campaigns. And we've done some, but they're minimal. And trying to do that along with everything else can be difficult.
Thank you. Those are my questions.
Thank you, Councillor Chang. Sure. Councillor Holladay, questions of staff?
Thanks, Chair.
And then Councillor Burnside, sorry.
So
I thought I saw your hand.
I just want to understand generally, why do we license pets? I mean dogs and cats when we talk about pets.
We license them. It should to be able to return them back to their owners should they be lost and that's the main reason, as well as to support the animal services section within MLS to pay for the services that we offer.
So could you tell me just at a very, very high level the financial model around the license? Because I think we heard there's not a lot of licenses in terms of compliance percentage. You don't bring a huge amount of money from the individuals. So how does this play out in animal services? Like what is the benefit of the money that you bring in from the licensing?
To the chair, so the benefit is that it does support the service. It goes directly to the service and supports the service.
Has any work been done with respect to almost like a marketing focus group? So, if the price was a little lower, would you get more compliance? If you did sort of multi-year licensing, could you get more income in and more compliance? You sort of looked at it almost with a business perspective. Because if I turn myself around, I don't own a pet, but if I did, I'd ask myself the question, so what am I getting for the fee that I pay to the city, right? which is, you know, in many people's minds, a fee to the government is different than a fee to a private provider. And so one always asks that question. So what have people told us, or have we asked people about it?
I mean, you're getting a way to return your pet back to you should your pet be lost. It does support our animal shelters should your pet be lost, and should other pets end up having to be cared for by the city. You can't just leave them running around the streets causing issues that way. And we do offer Blue Paw, and that gives discounts on pet-related items to owners of pets if they are licensed. And it does help to support a lot of other programs that we hold for people that don't have the accessibility or the finances to manage their pets.
And back to the microchips, we don't microchip, do we? Oh, we do. We do
Offer microchip clinics.
But microchipping in general it's not a government-run program. It's you know, just like vaccinations, you get it done at a vet, you get it done. So what do we do? Do we have a microchip reader? Is that how that works?
Yeah, we have a scanner, and our officers, when they're out in the field, will scan animals to see if we can return them immediately if they're not wearing their tag.
And how does the microchip work? Does it call a database and say, give us the information? Is there a universal big eye in the sky that watches pets, or how does this work?
There are a few companies that sell microchips, and so there are different databases that you have to go to, but we can access them and then find the owners if the information they leave is updated. And that's another reason why you want to connect with people annually, so that you make sure that their information is up to date.
Okay, and so if I'm a pet owner and I want to have maximum benefit and coverage, I would microchip my pet with a company that I like, whether it's through the city or through a private veterinarian. They'll do that operation. Do I pay a subscription fee for a microchip, or is it once and done?
You can pay a subscription fee if you want more services, but you can just pay for the chip and it's once and done.
All right, and they have my phone number or whatever it is. Okay, and then on top of that, a compliant owner with, I guess, the law is going to register their pet, have an updated little tag each year, and the database with the city is kept up to date. And with that information, you would also run programs and services within Toronto Animal Services that has to do with those pets.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, that helps me a lot.
Thank you, Councillor Holliday. Other questions of staff on this item? Seeing none. Sorry, so the item before us, it's to extend a contract for pet licensing. So microchips would be above and beyond what's before us today, correct? That would be an add-on.
That's correct. This is, we did a 1-year pilot, and now this is a 5-year deal with a city option for an additional 5 years. Microchipping is not a component of this contract.
Correct. All right. And should we be getting into the microchipping business, in your opinion?
So we already do. Microchipping is, I would say the large percentage of it is done by veterinarians, and it's done by breeders. And many breeders are outside the city of Toronto. And so it is a service that we do offer. Currently, we have a chip truck, not to be confused with the French fries, and we have had that confusion at this committee before. So it is a service that we do provide at our shelters and at the chip truck.
And sorry, Carlton, could you, so I don't have a pet, but my understanding is when you walk out the door with a dog, your dog should, legally it has to be on a leash if it's in public.
That's correct. Your dog needs to be on a leash when it is not on your property. It needs to be secured at all times so it doesn't get spooked and run off. It is only permitted to be off leash in your rear yard typically. which would be fenced in, or at a permitted off-leash park in one of our parks. And I think we
Which is
have
fenced.
I think we have over 80 dogs off-leash parks in the city of Toronto.
So can you just explain to me, so with all of that, why we would be spending money on microchipping to help people find their lost animal if once they go at the door on public property, they're responsible to have the animal leashed and should know where it is? Help me with this.
There's a lot of entitled people in our city who don't think their dogs need to be on a leash, who think they need to get more exercise. And we have a huge problem in this city with dogs off leash in all parts of the city. It is a challenging piece of work to enforce because, again, many of our residents think their dog is well behaved, it wouldn't bite anyone, it wouldn't attack anyone, it wouldn't scare anyone, all of which are false.
So if we're so we already have a licensing regime. Your dog has to be on a leash when it's not on your property or in the off-leash dog park, which is fenced. And if we got into the microchipping business, some shape or form extended, then people that feel they're entitled to let their dog not be on a leash and run wild or run around, wouldn't that, having us microchipping dogs, wouldn't that increase that sense of entitlement and risk for people that are in the area when the dog's off leash?
Potentially. The main reason we do licensing and microchipping is to return that dog quickly to its owner as quickly as possible, so it's spending less time in our shelters. We have 3 shelters, one in Scarborough, North York, and Etobicoke. And it's important that we keep the number of days that dogs are in our shelter to a minimum because it's at our cost. And so we use a combination of licensing and microchipping to be able to return dogs to their owners if they were to get off their leash or to get lost or to get out of their backyard. But you're right, if residents of our city always had their dog on a leash, we wouldn't be required to do it.
Okay, and sorry, in your opinion, so you're quite happy with the licensing regime as we have it, what we do with microchipping, and that's why this is before us today, asking us to approve it?
Yes, we think it's important for people to license their pets, but we're in the 10% range, and we need to. We have a big gap to fill, and the more marketing and the other companies, this company in particular, to assist us with this. We've already seen an uptick of 6.6% in it. So it's important that we continue to see those numbers rise.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. I believe those are all the questions of staff. Speakers, Councillor Cheng, did you want to speak?
I have a motion, but I'm not sure if it's ready.
Yes, it's ready.
Right. Thank you. So thank you for this report. I think good technology is important to make sure we get better compliance, but I think there's some gaps that I hope we can address. So it'd be great to have better understanding of what our public awareness efforts are and the budget allocated, because clearly that is a missing piece to strengthen compliance. In other jurisdictions, there is some level of partnership or integration with veterinarian clinics and with microchipping services. Although we do not have authority over these regimes, some kind of partnership, including cost, sharing, so that if people are microchipping, then they can opt into licensing and we share a piece of the licensing costs with the microchipping companies if they are able to get people on board. That would, I think, make it much easier. A lot of pet owners do microchip, and that's a private decision. It's not a requirement by the city, but it's an opportunity for us to get people on board for licensing if that partnership existed. And, getting that type of partnership with vet clinics as well, because pet owners will always have moments where they visit vets. So just strengthening how we can get higher compliance, I think, is important, because we know that animal services is important, does incredible work in our city, and strengthening how we can help support their activities, I think, through better licensing compliance will help. And lastly, would really like to see the texting renewal notices come in a future iteration if it isn't already planned for DocuPet, because texting is something that many services, as our chair pointed out, even through our pharmacies, and I think, we would definitely get higher compliance if our reminders were sent through texting. So these are just some motions to help us, move towards increased partnerships and greater compliance. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ching. Questions of the mover? Seeing none. Other speakers on this item? Seeing none. All right, so we have the amendments by Councillor Chang. All in favor? Any opposed? And that passes. Item is amended. All in favor? And that carries. All right, our next item is, I know this one, Matthew. Our next item is GG 22.16, Administrative Penalty System 2024 activity, held by Councillor Holyday. Councillor Holyday, questions of staff?
Thank you. The report tells us that there are about 2.1 million tickets issued, and about 17% of them are I just call it challenge. They're appealed to the first layer, they're appealed to city staff. Is that correct? Is about 350,000 tickets?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, that is correct.
Okay, so how does it break down? So those tickets go to someone within the administrative penalty system, and they assess them. But how do I square up the numbers about the findings of the administrative penalty system first? I guess this is a first screening or the first layer of it.
I believe in the report at table 3, it outlines the activity in 2024, keeping in mind that all of the matters that were sent to screening in 2024 have not yet been determined and are not included in this report.
Well, if I add up the numbers in table 3, and if I do it really, really quickly, I just call it about 150, 165,000. So that's the screening. So that's about half of the number of tickets, the 17% that are challenged. So where does the other half of the challenge tickets go?
There are still quite a few tickets that are outstanding waiting for screening. They are in the system. When a person requests the screening, they're put on hold pending the assessment and determination by staff.
Okay, but that's cumulative though, year over year. So how many tickets are sitting on hold pending screening?
I do not have that number, Councillor, with me at this time. Okay. I do know that there is a current time to screening is a bit over 10 months.
Okay, but would it be safe to infer that there's lots of tickets that are waiting, like tens, if not hundreds of thousands?
I would say that sounds accurate, Councillor.
Okay, so what's the long-term plan? If the city's reasonably able to process, 150,000 here, I mean, that's a lot. And there's 17% of tickets, I'm going to imagine that's fairly consistent year over year, as are the number of tickets written. What's the long-term prognosis?
So we have seen a significant increase, Councillor, in the number of disputes and screening requests, especially with the increase in penalties, that we've seen a significant increase in the number of people asking for screening requests. A lot of those, not surprisingly, are for financial reasons. Our staffing model for screening parking was determined in 2017 when it was first reported, and it has not been reassessed. We are working with within ourselves to review the level if we have enough staff. In addition, we, like other divisions, have had some staffing challenges over the last couple of years with people moving to other jurisdictions and other positions. So part of it is a staffing issue, and we're also hoping that the new case management system will assist us in speeding up with that as well.
So prior to the administrative penalty system, people would challenge this in, I guess it was provincial court, right? Like Provincial Offences Act court.
That is correct. And those matters were well over 18 months, and most of them had to end up being withdrawn.
Right, they would time out. So what was was there a statutory time limit on them in the provincial courts?
There was not a statutory time limit, Councillor. There was a common law, case law that evolved around the charter, and a reasonable time to trial, which has been modified since we've moved into the administrative penalty, and it has been set by case referred to as R versus Jordan by the Supreme Court of Canada at 18 months.
18 months. Okay, so we're at 10 months with our administrative penalty system. Is it covered by the same case laws, or are we in a different? It's a different system, I guess.
It is a different system. It is not subject to charter scrutiny for time, and there are Supreme Court of Canada cases that set that out.
Okay, so let's go a little further. So the administrative penalty system, the screening officers handle about 150,000 at present, and then some of those ultimately get appealed to the tribunal, right, which is like the next layer, the appeal. So how many get brought to the tribunal, and then how many do the tribunal process?
To the chair, there's approximately 19,000 that went to the tribunal.
Right.
And of that, similar to screening, there is a bit of a backlog. And also some cases from 2024 are now being heard in 2025, right? If they got their notice in December, right, that they're sort of carried over into 2025. So the report also outlines the decisions of the tribunal related to that. So they've made decisions on approximately 3,000 cases in 2020.
Right, you know, and the tribunal, I understand, right? It's not an automatic process, right? There's a hearing and people go through the information. So again, what's the long-term prognosis if the tribunal can process a reasonable amount of work and it's very easy to make an appeal, and 19,000 people did, where do we all go with this?
Currently, we're looking at 45 days to hearing, which is a quicker, obviously, number than if we were dealing with that through the provincial courts, and only about 1% go through any type of hearing that goes
Last question,
forward.
Councillor.
But again, back to 3,000 and 19,000, how does that square up? Do a bunch get dismissed, or do they just wait?
No, all of them are heard by the tribunal in due course, right? So even in 2025, we are now in June, right? A number of those 2024 matters would have been heard between January and June as well, which will be reported in the 2025 APS activity report.
Chair, can I request a second round? I want to ask something different, though. Okay, so the other one is now on trends with respect to tickets at condominium buildings, places where there's a deficiency in parking. Do we have any trends or changes in the types of tickets that are issued?
To the chair, that would be a question more appropriately answered by enforcement agencies. We don't track the amount of notices through our system currently.
So I'll ask that on the next one. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Holiday. Other questions of staff on this item? Seeing Councillor Cheng.
Thank you. I've been told that we have piloted automatic parking enforcement devices that are installed, and then when there's illegal parking, that a ticket would be issued automatically. Is that on the horizon for this system?
To the chair, our partners at Toronto Police Service and Toronto Parking Authority are exploring those types of technologies, and conversations are underway as to understanding the implications of that and how it would fit into the system.
And then I want to circle back to Councillor Holliday's question. So 19,000 tickets were appealed and 3,000 went to tribunal. And so that's 16,000 that then had to be carried over. How does that meet out? I wasn't clear on the answer of, you know, what is our ability to clear all the appeals?
To the chair, so yes, approximately 19,000 matters were forwarded to the tribunal for hearing review. Of those 19,000, approximately 3,400 were reviewed last year. And as I stated earlier, you know, it depends when they get that notice. If they get it in November, December, it moves into 2025. So that's why you're only seeing the numbers for 2024 that were reviewed. A number of them, quite a number, have been reviewed between January and June now, right, for the 2024 year.
But then we would at the same time be growing a backlog for 2025 appeals to the tribunal. So while we're clearing the previous year, new appeals are being filed at the same time. Is the appeal rate this year or even in 2024, I'm sorry, in this year, 2025, similar? Are we seeing similar percentage of appeals happening?
We don't, to the chair, we don't have the final numbers for 2025 because that is ongoing. And as committee and council will recall, we also onboarded red light camera automated speed earlier this year with additional resources going to screening and tribunals to manage that additional load.
So how many staff headcount are currently assigned to the tribunal?
So we have, I think it's 15 hearing members and then staff who support that. And so as part of red light camera automated speed, we are looking at additional supports in the out years.
So 15 specifically for parking enforcement tribunal?
15 overall.
And that is a staffing number that was created in 2017?
Sorry. So when we say staff, staff are different than the hearing members, right? Those are appointed by council, and those are the members that adjudicate the actual hearing. So staff
and how many
support.
How many of those are there?
There's 25 of those in particular.
25 adjudicators. Are they working full-time?
25 members, 5 staff, yes, on a full-time basis.
So at a rate of 19,000, let's say per year, and if you divide that by 25 adjudicators, each adjudicator would have to clear 760 a year, which would mean 2 a day if they worked every day for 365 days.
I mean, correct. We do schedule based on their availability, and we do have some part-time members. So we are keeping an eye on the number of hearing officers needed, right? As the volumes increase, obviously, as there are more parking penalty notices that go forward, as red light camera automated speed numbers increase, we're going to have to keep an eye on the number of members and adjust accordingly.
So do we foresee that in the 2026 budget, there will be a staffing request to grow the adjudication as well as tribunal staff in order to keep up with the demand?
We'll be looking at the trends, especially for red light camera automated speed, and reporting back accordingly on that.
Okay, thank you. Those are my questions.
Thank you, Councillor Cheng. Speakers on this item? Councillor Holiday, you held it?
Thank you. I thank for the opportunity to ask the questions. I just think that the report is giving us an early warning on a growing backlog. In particular, as red light and ASE moves into the administrative penalty process, those tickets are much higher in value. So one may theorize there would be more incentive among the public to challenge them. So right now it's 17%. We'll see where that goes. It means that it's a lot of work from the city's perspective to carry out the administration of the system. And I do worry that the backlog grows and grows and grows till it's something that's unmanageable. I don't know what the answer is to this yet. Maybe there's a few interventions required, and that would be my urging to staff and to this committee, is that we keep our minds to this, because there's a justice angle to it, right? If the fines don't stick, then what incentive do people have to obey the laws? I guess the one other dimension too that I would point out that's come up a few times, and it did today, is that some people are appealing this on the basis that it's a financial hardship to pay the ticket. You know, it's expensive owning a car and driving a car, especially if you're the owner and somebody else is driving it and getting the ticket. But a ticket is just one small piece of all of that. So I don't know how you explain, if you own a car, that you can't pay the ticket. I mean, a tank of gas is, you know, $60, $70, $80, $90 to fill it up. So I think this is something we have to look at, because these numbers are very, very large. And as we all know, the tickets are an important piece of maintaining civic order in the city, and frankly, dealing with congestion at times. So it's a really important aspect of city life that I think needs to be protected. So that's all I'll say, Chair. Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Holiday. Other speakers on this item? Seeing none, so we have the report before us. Councillor Holiday, do you want to move the recommendations? Okay, all in favor? That carries. And our next item is GG 22.17, Annual Report 2024 Parking Enforcement Unit Parking Violation Notice Issuance, held by Councillor Holiday. Councillor Holiday, questions of staff?
Yeah, so this is a little bit more along the lines of these questions. I think, if we have somebody from Toronto Police here for parking enforcement, or somebody that can speak to the breakdown of work with the MLEOs. Do we have someone here today that could do that? Maybe not, Mr. Chair. I'll try the question.
Try it.
Could somebody explain to me the difference between the work that is done by a parking enforcement officer and an MLEO, a municipal license enforcement officer, even generally? Nope.
Carlson, you want to try?
I will try, yeah.
Okay.
So parking is typically both, enforced by the Toronto Parking Authority, which is a unit of the Toronto Police Service. Transportation does a little bit as well when it's on the right-of-way.
Yep.
And related to construction, and we maybe do a little in parks.
So the city or public servants are out there dealing with parking on public land in various forms, whether this is the edge of the road or city parking lots and so on. Where do the MLEOs fit in, and how is their regime overseen?
And just if you could, on the acronym that you're using.
Sorry, it's the municipal license, municipal law enforcement officer?
So that is it is a certification process, and some of our officers have it. It's not a requirement, it's a good to have. It may be a requirement in the parking authority. It's primarily a certification.
So do we know, the municipal law enforcement officers, I think from the reports, they're the ones that write tickets on private property. Who then would be the overseer of that process? And I'll follow up with that person with the tickets. Is that Toronto Police that enables these people to exist?
That is correct. They are the, they provide the certification, correct?
Okay, and so I'll ask more generally to the room. I have an interest in trying to figure out trends in tickets, and whether they're tickets on private property, say in a condominium where, you know, the simplest form, somebody parks long-term in a visitor spot, and I think an MLEO gives a ticket, versus parking in and around new condominium buildings on the street illegally because, I don't know, they ran out of space. Where do I go to figure out those trends over time in terms of numbers and locations? I'll do that offline. I just need to know who to ask.
If I might, through you, Mr. Chair, the offense for parking on private property without consent is set out in one of the tables attached, which should tell you how many tickets were issued for that particular offense by year. In terms of getting it year over year, I think that consideration should be given to directing that towards Toronto Police Parking Enforcement, who should be able to provide that information.
Okay, and they would have a window into the MLEOs, I hope.
They provide guidance to the MLEOs.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Other questions? Thank you, Matthew. Other questions of staff on this item? Seeing none, Councillor Holliday to speak. Move receipt of the report. All right, thank you. All in favor of receipt, and that carries. Matthew, I believe that was the last item. Bills? No bills. All right, motion to adjourn. Councillor Burnside, all in favor? And that carries. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Appreciate everybody.